First, a few questions. It is popularly believed that if children are not happy, if children are having issues, it's probably because of low self-esteem. Or it's because they're not getting enough love. So it almost seems like the answer to all questions and all problems is more love and higher self-esteem. And no matter how much love you're giving your children, if they still have issues, it's because you have to give them more love. There's no end. Let's take a look. Is this working? Is more love making things better? Are parents more loving today than 2 generations ago? You could make the argument that parents are more loving. Are children happier, healthier, smarter? I don't think so. Self-esteem, more self-esteem, better self-esteem. It's getting to where we're actually creating little monsters who believe that they are special and privileged and deserving. But then again, life doesn't treat you that way. So if we tell children that they are special and that they're precious and that they're deserving of everything good, and we give them a really high self-esteem, but then life presents difficulties. They can't get everything they want. Now they've got a conflict, they've got a contradiction in their life. They deserve everything, but they're not getting everything. How are they to handle this? There's an injustice that they can't accept. If I deserve everything, well, then where is it? Why don't I have it? And at some point, as the children get older and you tell them right from wrong, you say to them, you know, you may want this relationship, but it's not right. Well, they can't handle that. Oh, all of a sudden, having what I want is not the objective? That is not the goal? So it's very similar to parents telling their children, all we want for you is to be happy. You should be happy. That's your happiness is the most important thing. And then they come home and tell you what they decided to do and how they want to live. And you say, no, that's not acceptable. There's a contradiction there. So I'm beginning to suspect that maybe high self-esteem is not only not the solution to all problems, but it may actually be causing problems. And that loving your children may also become toxic at some point. Consider this. Unconditional love. Right? Isn't that wonderful? Isn't that what ought to be? Shouldn't we all love our children unconditionally? And unconditional love, shouldn't that make children secure, happy, content, and therefore cooperative? No? If you think about it, love is an emotion. An emotion means a reaction to someone. If I love you, it's a reaction to you. Something about you appeals to me, draws me. If I hate you, then there is something about you that turns me off and that repels me, and I want to get away from you. So all emotion is a reaction to another person who can either love you back or hate you back. In other words, you share the same emotions. How can that be unconditional? How can I react to you unconditionally when you keep changing? So how can I say I find you lovable when you're not lovable, when you're being hateful? Say, well, I don't care. I love you anyway. Well, then who am I reacting to? Is it possible that when a mother says to her child, I love you unconditionally, the child actually resents it because that means that the child no longer matters? Because no matter what the child does, your reaction is going to be the same. So is that really an emotion? Is that a relationship? Are you reacting to me? Maybe when a child is told, I love you unconditionally, they feel a need to act out, to drive you so crazy that you will admit that you don't love them right now. And then you are reacting to them because they matter. So saying, I will love you unconditionally is like saying, you don't matter. What you do doesn't matter. How you behave doesn't matter. I've made up my mind. I'm into love. And I'm going to love you whether you like it or not. Actually, what should be unconditional is a fact, not a feeling. The fact that you are my child, the fact that I am your father or mother, that is unconditional. I will never step out of that role because it is true. No matter how you behave, you are my child. You're mine. And that is so unconditional that even when I hate you, I'm still your father and you're still my child. You are mine and I am yours. And right now I hate you. See, that's unconditional. That's security without sacrificing my reality. So you will react to me depending on how I behave. So I'm real. You're noticing me. You're responding to me. And you're responding appropriately. When I deserve love, you give me love. When I deserve hate, you give me hate. That's correct. But no matter whether you love me or hate me, we are family. I'm yours, you're mine, and that will never change and that will never break. So if self-esteem is not the solution and love is not the solution, then what is? There's actually a very palpable, obvious fear that people have of their children, afraid of their own children. We're so afraid of making a mistake. We're so afraid of upsetting our child that we don't really parent with any confidence. We hardly parent at all. We cater to our children, hoping that they will somehow appreciate what we're doing for them. So I hope, just as a disclaimer, I hope that these conversations that we're going to have and these examinations of parenting and so on, that this doesn't add to the already difficult burden and doesn't make you more fearful. So am I doing it right? Did I just make a mistake? Did I just ruin my child's life? Sometimes even conversations, even talking about child raising can create problems. So you read all these books on how to raise children and you realize you didn't do it this way, you didn't do it that way. So maybe you ruined your kid, maybe you destroyed. It just makes it so much harder when parenting should be spontaneous, effortless. Just be yourself and let your child follow your example. Isn't that a good way to raise a child? Let's consider another thing. What works therapeutically. When there's a problem, when there's an issue, when there's some pathology, there are ways of fixing it. Therapeutic methods, therapeutic style, therapeutic philosophy. Does the therapeutic model also work as a way of raising children to not have issues in the first place? In other words, preventative. How do you raise a healthy child who doesn't have a problem? How do you raise them to be problem-free? Can the same approach or the same thinking that works therapeutically, correcting, repairing damage, can it also be an initial positive and preferred style of raising a child? Probably not. Probably not. On the other hand, the philosophy of how you raise a child, the principles of child raising, can it also be of service in the therapeutic field? Hopefully, yes. Because if that's what would make a child healthy, then why shouldn't a child who has an issue get a healthy dose of what's healthy, instead of being treated exclusively as a victim in need of repair? So that leads us to the question, what is child raising? What is parenting? What is it? What does it mean? We don't know. We've never really been given a good definition. We know when it goes wrong, but we don't know when it's right. So this is what we need to discuss, and this is going to change everything, because if you know what you're doing, you feel so much more confident, even when you make a mistake. If I know where I'm going, then even if I get verblunget, if you know what I mean, if I do make a wrong turn on the highway, I'll find my way back because I know where I'm going. But if I'm not sure where I'm going, then every mistake seems terminal, all over, finished, lost, never to be found again. So if we get a good definition and a good picture of what it is we're supposed to accomplish in raising a child, before we get to the how-to, we need to know what is it we're trying to do? What's the end goal? What's the objective? There's also the question of whatever it takes to raise children, do I have it? Do I have what it takes? How are we going to know whether I have what it takes when I'm not sure what it is? So if I'm not clear about what child raising is, how am I supposed to know whether I have the tools or the ability to make it happen? I don't know what's supposed to happen, which again leaves me very insecure. So here's what I'm suggesting as introduction to our understanding of child raising. Insecurity is not a good idea. An insecure parent is going to make a child insecure. If you don't parent confidently, then it doesn't work. So rule number one, be confident. Be confident that you're the adult. You know right from wrong. You know what the child needs to be, what the child needs to hear, what the child needs to learn. You know the child does not know, and that puts you in a comfortable, secure position where you have the confidence that there is a lot that you have that the child needs to acquire. And then it's just a question of what's the best way to make that happen. But without that confidence, if you're insecure, if you're uncertain, everything you say to your child sounds hollow. It sounds maybe a little desperate, but it is certainly not convincing. And it does not provide a solid foundation for a life, any kind of life. So here's a truth, a truism that we all need to get comfortable with and convinced of. Of course, children need to be loved. Of course, children need to know that they're being loved. They need to see it, they need to feel it, they need to hear it, of course. But that's like icing on the cake. Love is not a cake. Love is not life. And that's why, God forbid, you can have a child who does not love life, because their life is not what they want it to be or what they need it to be. And so they don't love it. Love and life are two very different things. Life is the cake, love is the icing. Sometimes, when there is no cake, the icing is disappointing, is pointless, useless, empty. What you really hunger for is the cake, not the icing. Maybe not cake. What you really hunger for is the steak, not the sizzle. The sizzle does not satisfy. Okay, maybe not steak, something healthy. But it's the food, the nutrition that you hunger for, not the look, not the crunch, not even the sweetness of it. So love makes life sweet if you have a life. And if you do have a life and are missing the sweetness, well, you still have a life. It'd be nice if it was also sweet, if it was also pleasant. So yes, the icing enhances the cake, but it can't replace it. It can't substitute. So if love is not the core, if love is not synonymous with life, what is? Self-esteem. If you have self-esteem, you have everything. Certainly not. In fact, here's the problem with self-esteem. The problem with self-esteem is that the phrase begins with the word self, and that's already bad. The thing we're suffering most from today is the addiction to self. The me monster. Me, 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 me. It is so bad that we're actually starting to hate it. I don't want to hear about me anymore. Stop telling me about me. I need to get off that subject because I'm drowning in it. Can't take it anymore. And possibly this is what children mean when they say, leave me alone. They don't mean neglect me. They mean, can we stop about me? Enough with the me. Somebody went to a rabbi and asked, how do you observe Shabbos? And the rabbi said, on Shabbos you do what you find most meaningful. And the 17-year-old kid walked away completely turned off and insulted. And when I spoke to him, he said, I go to a rabbi, I ask him what it is, what it takes to observe the Sabbath, and he tells me, whatever you think is best. You're telling me I can do what I want? Do I need a rabbi to tell me that? I know I can do what I want. I've always done what I want. You go to a rabbi to find out what is right, what ought to be, not what can be. So he was very disappointed when the rabbi was actually giving him good self-image. He was empowering him. He was telling him, whatever you feel is significant and right for you, that's the best. And this kid was completely turned off. That's not what I need a rabbi for. I don't need anybody in the 21st century America to tell me that I can do whatever I think is right. Those days are gone. Maybe 100 years ago, when people were so overwhelmed by shoulds and shouldn'ts and right and wrong and religion and communism and czars who tell you what to do, it was a relief to hear that I can do what I want. That was a long time ago. Of course I can do what I want, and I don't necessarily enjoy it. In fact, I hate it because it's so directionless, pointless, meaningless. I need to know what I ought to be doing. I need to know what's expected, what the objective is, what the goal is. Do whatever you want. That's a dead end. So leave me alone. Leave the me out of it. Everybody's telling me what's best for me, including me. All I want is me, and this me is taking over my life. I'm stuck in it. I'm trapped in it, and I hate it. So what is a good self-image? Obviously, a low self-image is destructive. It is. But so is a high self-image. It's the same issue, two sides of the same coin. And what they both have in common is the word self. It's all about self. Children complain to their parents, you have to accept me as I am. This is me. And you won't accept me because all you think of is you. Everything's about you. So you see what's going on? Children accuse the parents of only thinking about themselves. And what should they be thinking about? What should the parents be thinking about? Me. This is very disturbed. Okay. Good self-image. A good self-image is a self that you can dispense with. It's a self that you can move past. It's a self that you can laugh at, and it's a self that you can ignore. Low self-image means I can't ignore myself. It's always about me, and it's always about me being the loser, the failure, the dropout, the victim. Too much about me. But high self-image is the exact same thing in reverse. I deserve, I should have, get out of my way, accept me as I am, this is me, me, me. They're both toxic. They're both toxic because they trap you in a tiny little world called me. Tiny little world. Claustrophobic. So a good self-image means a self that you don't have to take seriously. A person who can laugh at their self, you see? Laugh at the me. This is me, and it's kind of laughable. Nothing to be excited about. That's a really healthy self-image. And if you'll notice, the people you're attracted to the most easily, the most naturally, that everyone is attracted to, is the person who can laugh at himself. Everybody loves it. Everybody needs it. I don't mean become a comedian, although part of good comedy is the self-deprecating humor where you can laugh at yourself and people welcome that. It makes them feel good. It helps them laugh at themselves. This vicious kind of humor that has now become popular, cutting people down, ridiculing people, that's not useful. It's not even funny. It's nasty. Nobody needs to hear nasty. We do need to hear self-deprecating because we're drowning in ourselves and we're looking for ways to get out. I don't know professionally or factually, scientifically, but it's very possible children hurt themselves because they're drowning in themselves and they want to break out. They don't know how. So if it's not love that makes life significant, important, valuable, and justified, right? In fact, love should not even be described as important. It's the wrong word. Love is the appropriate spirit in which you conduct a relationship that is, for some reason, important in your life. So here's the rule. That which is important, you should love. But love does not make something important. How do you convince an 11-year-old that the brother he hates is still more important in his life than the dog that he loves? Most children are not convinced. For most children, if you love your dog and you don't love your brother, then the dog comes first, because I love my dog. How arrogant, how disturbed is that? Something is important when I love it, and when I stop loving it, you're not important anymore? Is that how it goes? The brother you hate is still more important than the dog you love. So love is the appropriate emotion, feeling, spirit in which to conduct a relationship with someone who is important in your life. And if you don't love those who are important, they're still important. And if you do love those who are not important in your life, they're still not important. They're like chocolate. You love it, it's not important. Self-esteem does not make your life work better. A self that you can laugh at, that's better. But we still don't have a definition for what is life. Let's try this. More than we need to be loved, we need to be needed. More than I need to fulfill my needs, I need to know that I'm fulfilling somebody else's need. Now, this is really important. Let's get this clear. Life means to be necessary, to be of service, to make a difference. That's life. If I don't make a difference, all I'm doing is taking up space, and I hate it. I hate being without having an effect. It violates the human spirit to think, I am here, I take up space, I eat, drink, and sleep, and I have no effect on anybody. This is not acceptable to a human being. A human being is a purposeful creature. And that's why we're always asking, what is the purpose? Why are we here? What is the meaning of life? Why can't we just enjoy? Because we are essentially by definition, purposeful creatures. We are driven by purpose, not by need. Our needs are our weakness. Our purpose is our strength. So I need to be needed much more than I need to satisfy my needs. So if I don't have everything I need, I can live with it. If I'm not having any effect on anybody else, I cannot live with it. Viktor Frankl puts it in different words. He says, in the concentration camp, your needs are all denied. You don't get what you need. Or you barely get what you need. And yet people have survived it. But those in the concentration camp who saw no purpose, who didn't see where they were necessary, where they were having a beneficial effect on somebody, somewhere, somehow, those did not survive. This is a very powerful statement about what we are in truth. What we are is what makes life meaningful. And we need to be needed more than we need to be loved. Tell me that I'm necessary and you don't like me. That's better than, I like you very much, but you're not necessary. I like you very much, but you're not necessary is appropriate for a pet. A pet is not necessary, but very enjoyable, lovable, cute. If you tell a human being, you're lovable, you're enjoyable, you're cute, you're just not necessary, it is not a compliment, and he cannot survive that. I must know that I make a difference. I must know that I am indispensable. Someone, somewhere finds me indispensable. And that's why Judaism makes such a strong emphasis on, whether you know it or not, you are necessary in God's creation. Because God will never create something that isn't necessary. Does that mean God loves you? I don't know. Do you love him? So the essence of Judaism is not God loves you. The essence of Judaism is you are necessary. You are a vital part of a vast eternal plan. And even if he doesn't like you, he still needs you in his world. And then if you're nice, he might even love you, which would be perfect, the icing on the cake. So what does it mean to be needed? Sometimes when people are depressed, the best solution is find somebody who really needs your help and offer help. All of a sudden, you're not depressed. All of a sudden, you've got a life. That's the key. That's the key. So what is raising children? Raising children means give them a firm, strong, clear understanding that life is about making a difference. Life is about being needed, not about attending to your needs. Look, isn't it true that people whose needs are completely satisfied, they have everything they need, and in abundance, aren't they most likely to get depressed? Because where do you go from there? Okay, I've had what to eat, plenty. I've had enough drink. I've had enough sleep. I have enough money to make me secure for 100 years. Now what? Eat some more, drink some more, sleep some more, get more money. It doesn't add up. Raising children means tell them what the purpose of life is, tell them where they're needed, how they're needed, and by whom they are needed. That's life. To sweeten life, you add a little love, and you add a little compassion, and you add a little humor, and you sweeten up the sour notes that are part of life. But what is life? Life is you make a difference. You have an effect. Somebody somewhere needs you to be here. And somebody said, you know what a birthday is? What's so special about a birthday? A birthday is the day that God decided that the world is not complete without you. Is that a good self-image? No, it's not about self. It's about the fact that someone else needs you and that you can enhance or fulfill or satisfy someone else's need. You are needed. That is empowering and humbling at the same time. There's no arrogance here. So imagine if we were all raised with that message. We are here to make a difference to others. This would be a pretty nice world. We would have a very nice society. Everyone available to fulfill needs that are not their own. So when you teach a child, for example, to share, how do you present it? What does the child hear? You must share with your friends or they'll never come back. Is that what it is? You must share. It is self-serving. You got to share because if you don't share, you're going to lose a friend. And then you'll be lonely. Or you have to share with your friend because what's going to happen when you go to your friend's house? If you don't share with him, he won't share with you. Is that being needed? You should share with your friend because your friend needs to be welcomed and comfortable in your home. So when he comes to your home, you got to do whatever it takes to make him feel welcomed, comfortable, and secure. If you don't share your toys, he'll get the impression that you don't want him here. And that's not nice for him. He needs you to be his friend. Give him what he needs. That's what you're needed for. You tell a child to study, get good grades. Why? So that you'll have your needs met, or so that you'll be able to meet other people's needs. See, even in the business world, big business, the most successful businesses, they're all saying, tell the world how you're serving, how you're making life better for others, and then you will be successful. So there's our goal. There's our objective. We're going to have a few conversations. We're going to have a few sessions in talking about raising children, but now we know where we're going. Now we know where we're headed. Your child needs to be needed. If he doesn't feel needed, no amount of love will make up for it. If you're not necessary, you can pile on the love and it's all foolish and meaningless because there's no one there to get the love. There's no valid human being who feels necessary in this world to appreciate the love. And high self-esteem, it's shallow, it's empty. What is your high self-esteem? What are you, the smartest, the most accomplished, the most capable? It's shallow. You tell a child you're the greatest and you're the best, and then he goes off to high school and he finds out that he's not the greatest and not the best at anything. Now what? Oh, yeah, but I love you. Oh, so we're back to that again. So by all means, love your child, but also give him a life. That's what we need to accomplish. So it's a really good idea that we're going to have these sessions, these talks, these studies. We got to get to the bottom of this. Life depends on it.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Friedman. We've got some great questions coming into the chat box, and I just want to see if everyone